All right, welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green, bringing you brand new interviews every week right here on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and help support the channel. Also, if you want to ask questions of my guests or you want to see the interviews before anyone else, go down to the Patreon link, click the link, and find the appropriate tier, and then sign up, and you can be asking the questions. And some of my patrons asked a few of the questions that we're going to get to today. My guest, Steve Blaze from the band LILLIAN Axe. LILLIAN Axe's entire back catalog is finally available digitally for streaming. And also they are working on a brand new record, From Womb to Tomb. We're going to talk to Steve right after this. Just wanna waste some time with you. Sometimes it seems too good to be true. Nobody I'd rather waste time with than you. All right, please welcome Steve Blaze.
Hello there. What's going on, buddy?
Good, Steve. I'm glad you could join me all the way from New Orleans, Louisiana, right?
Close. I'm in Mandeville. You ever heard of Mandeville before?
No.
It is about 30 miles from New Orleans. It's on the other side of the world's longest bridge over water. It's called the Causeway Bridge, and so I'm on what they call the North Shore. So I'm in Mandeville, but I'm a frisbee toss away from New Orleans right now.
Yeah, it goes with the if you're from anywhere in Illinois, you're from Chicago.
Of course, absolutely.
Louisiana, you're from New Orleans,
right, exactly. I do the same thing. So.
Yeah. One of the things that's interesting about when people see the metal bands of the 80s, the hard rock bands, they think everyone came from Hollywood. They think everyone just was on the Sunset Strip and got signed. And they also think that a lot of the bands started, your debut record comes out in 88. Well, that's when the band started. But they don't realize that you were kicking around for quite some time. The band started in Louisiana, 1983. So this is not like you guys just woke up and got signed. You paid your dues and built a following. You really built a following in the South and Louisiana, so that people knew who you were before you were signed, and you had to plug away. And it was a bit of a different lineup than the lineup that was on the record, although your bass player, who was before the band got signed, is currently in LILLIAN Axe with you. So you paid those dues, you played those shows, and you were so in demand that sometimes when a tour would come around, they would look for local support to kind of help boost their show. And so you guys got on some shows with, I believe, Queensryche and Rat. Is that right?
That is correct. And Poison was on one of those shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right when their first record came out. So yeah, we you did your homework. Very good. We spent a good 4.5 years or so just beating down the clubs, playing everywhere. It was the original lineup was Michael Max on bass, Johnny Vines on vocals, Danny King playing drums, and we came in at a part where the only other really hard rock band that was making any waves was Zebra at the time, and they were kind of considered what you would call a Led Zeppelin tribute band. They played tons of Zeppelin and Bowie and stuff like that, and they did it very, very well. So then they were doing the same thing we were. We were playing covers, throwing in originals, and then searching for that ever elusive record deal. And so, but we were playing Motley Crue and Judas Priest and Sabbath and Ozzy and Kiss and anything else that was at that time considered the happening metal stuff. So we just kept beating down the path, man, and we would just work our tails off. We had a van and we traveled in it. We had a crew with a truck full of equipment, and we went everywhere and anywhere we could. And we kept building this following, and it got to a point where Rat was coming to town for Dancing Undercover, had Queensryche as the opener, and we got a call from our agent. They said, "Hey, we'd like to see if LILLIAN wants to open the shows." Of course, you're not getting any money, but we didn't care. Of course, we thought we had hit the lottery. So we did it. After the first two shows, I got a call on Monday morning from Marshall Burrell, who was managing the band at the time.
Yeah, Marshall
And
Burrow was managing Rat, and he's
yep,
also the nephew of Milton Berle, which explains the Milton Berle cameos in the Rat music videos.
exactly. And I actually had lunch with Milton Berle and went to his private little family birthday party at the Rainbow. So I got
How
to meet
cool.
Uncle Milty a couple of times, and his favorite thing was, "What kind of name is that?" That was his big thing. And of course, as he said it, it was the funniest catchphrase of all time. But so Marshall, that's where it started off as far as us getting signed. But man, we played everywhere. As a matter of fact, I was listening. I've got some old live recordings from like '86 and '87, and we're playing, throwing in originals and playing, Red Hot by Motley Crue and Walking the Dog and Aerosmith and all kinds of the early stuff. And it's where we cut our teeth. And then we fight. It wasn't definitely wasn't overnight at all. And we worked hard, and then that was just the beginning of it, getting signed, and the whole roller coaster started at that point. And
Yep.
you were mentioning like it's like Michael Max, Danny King went on for the first two records, Lillian Axe and Love and War, and it was a weird situation. But Michael and Danny, I'm sorry, Michael and Johnny didn't move on with me to MCA, but Michael rejoined Lillian several years ago, so he's back in the fold. And
Yeah.
so I look at it like a sports team. We've had, when you have a history that's 30 something years old, you're going to have, a couple of some different linemen, and things are going to change here and there. But at the end of the day, it's all part of the legacy. It's bigger than just who's in the band to me. It's about the songs and the experience and the fact that, I did form the band and I am still here and still writing. And I just try to keep in the spirit of what the band was formed to do and keep on moving on. And if we've had some great vocalists in the band, we've had great musicians all the way around. As long as I can keep the quality up and keep working hard and deliver the passion that we have for this, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I want to make the point that you're not one of these guys who raced to the trademark and the other guys were gone and I'm going to go out. This was always your band. You always owned the name LILLIAN AXE. You came up with the
Yep.
name. The funny
Yes.
story, you went to see the movie Creep Show and you had this idea, right? For you needed an old lady name. You were thinking, what's a scary old lady? Lillian.
Exactly. What's funny is, the Creep Show, there's a series now on TV, Creep Show.
Yeah.
And it's all, like the movie, it's like individual tales of horror. And it seems like everywhere I go now, I see the Creep Show poster and that bridesmaid skeleton that was in that little boy's window that inspired the name. She's everywhere, So it's kind of weird when I see that recurring over and over again. And as a matter of fact, I was in a record store yesterday and they were selling an original Creep Show poster from right when the movie came out for $500, and it had the Lillian character in the poster. So I was like, do I want to do that? That's all right. That's all right. I got enough pictures of it.
You guys both survived the test of time, though. But so I wanted people to realize that it's not like you're cashing in. This has been your brand for quite some time, and
Yes.
that's how it goes. So Marshall Burle wants you guys, and he has some ideas, and you guys are talking about bringing in different members of the band. Classic lineup is Ron Taylor, John Sturr, Rob Stratton, and then, like you said, Danny King, who came in. He stayed with you from the original
Right.
club band,
Right.
And so Marshall's trying to put some things together, and the idea comes about to have Robin Crosby from Rat produce your record, your self-titled record, and Robin Crosby comes to you guys, right? He comes to Louisiana.
Yes, he actually. I think you never really know what exactly happened, but I think what happened is Robin saw us play those first two shows, and he'd probably been wanting to, kind of spread his musical wings and do some other things. And when he saw us, he probably went to Marshall and said, "Hey, man, as a band, I really like them out here, and they're on the show with us. They got a following, so let me. I want to produce them." And I think that's how it went down. So Marshall said, "Robin really likes the band. He wants to produce your album," and we're huge Rat fans, and Robin was we'd met all the guys, but Robin was unique and special. He was incredibly friendly, really nice guy. And yeah, he came down. And I have a funny Robin story
Well,
because
I got to before you tell it, I got to say
all right,
one of my Patreons, we opened it up for questions, and Kevin Bear
okay.
Quiver, he said, "Please ask Steve his favorite memory of Robin Crosby." And so you were going to go into it on your own. So Kevin's going to get his story. So let's hear about Robin.
Okay. Well, Robin came down. We talked on the phone, and we knew what records, what songs we were going to do. We were always, I was never one that was like, oh, we've got 50 songs, and we got to listen to them and play 'em and figure out which one we're going to put on the record and stuff. I've always been pretty focused on knowing which songs would be on the records ahead of time. So Robin came down, and we holed ourselves up in downtown Jackson, Mississippi, in like the worst area of town. Okay, it was like in the ghetto, and it was an abandoned building, but we were able to get the owner of the building to let us set up our gear upstairs in this room. So we set up this like mini PA. We went up there, and we just started running through the songs. And be honest with you, very little changes. Uh, the most changes came in the studio when we were doing lyrics, because some of my lyrics were a little bit too out there for Robin, and he wanted me to kind of rat him up a little bit, I guess you would say. So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, Robin, we'll do it. So a lot of compromise there, but he was great. So very friendly guy, big sensitive heart. Um, One thing I noticed about Robin was that I always felt like he did not realize he was insecure. Like, hey man, do you think I'm good? Do you think the band's good? Do you think I'm like, dude, you're a major rock star. I love your band. You are the nicest guy in the world. You're a great player. You're very talented. Enjoy it. Have fun. And I'm telling him this, right? And so we go out to eat. It's the last night of pre-production where he's there for about a week, I guess. And we go eat Mexican food, right? So we go there, and he's always, I don't eat meat. I don't eat meat or whatever. So we had some nachos, and I guess a little piece of meat must have gotten on one of his nachos or whatever. He's like, oh, that's meat. I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. So that night, after we finished, he goes, celebration time. And he takes a fifth of Crown Royal, which was the other guys in the band at the time's favorite drink. I don't know how they did it, but he guzzles like half the freaking fifth of Crown Royal. Next thing you know, we're like, where's Robin? He ran in one of the back rooms, and he was throwing up everywhere. It just, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh my God, are you okay? And he's like, comes out, wipes his mouth. Yeah, I think it was a piece of meat I had for dinner tonight. So yeah, it wasn't the half a bottle of Crown Royal he just swigged in one shot.
Yeah.
It was that little piece of meat that got to him. So
Yeah, I think that he maybe started feeling a little bit more in DeMartini's shadow a little bit, even though Robin was an amazing and accomplished player. And in the beginning of Rat, it was sort of equal. And I've talked to Stephen about it, Piercy, and the idea is Warm's really taking off, and they knew it was great for the band and to have this lead guy. But Robin still played a lot, and some of those great solos are Robin
that's
solo.
true.
But it's interesting at this time because Robin had never produced a record before. And this was kind of the time when, like you said, guys were looking for other things to do. I've got this sort of fame, but in the off time, I'm going to try to do other things. And a lot of guys were doing that. So for him being new, I'm not sure the engineer probably did a lot more, if I'm guessing.
Well, the engineers come. Funny that you mentioned that, as Kip Winger's brother, Paul Winger.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice, there are some harmonies on our first album that Kip's two brothers, Paul and Nate, sang a bunch of harmonies on the first album. That's the only record we ever had other people other than myself doing the harmonies. But they did, and you can even hear some Winger-esque harmonies on the first album. Because those guys sang probably as well as Kip does, and Kip's a great singer. But his brothers were equally talented. But Paul was our engineer on that first album. So, they were, you can tell a little bit of kind of and I say this with all due respect, but there was some rat elements in there, production wise and stuff like that. The way Robin heard it and stuff like that. I'm very proud of that record. Um, and But it was great because Robin was just like, he wasn't in there trying to. He never came in and said, "Nope, nope, that's not how we're doing it. We're doing it like this." It was more like he was just trying to bring out the best in us, and he did that. And another funny Robin story is I used to have a black and yellow, the old Kramer. I'm sorry, not Kramer. The Charvel. Uh, I think it was a San Dimas model, but it was the black and yellow Eddie Van Halen model, right? It had a Floyd Rose on it. And so that was my favorite guitar. It played wonderful. So one day while we're doing guitar tracks, I walk in there. I'm like, wait a minute. I know I left my guitar on the stand overnight in the room. Where is it? There's a solid black guitar sitting there. Like, excuse me, what happened to my guitar? Robin goes, I painted it. I had it painted black last night. He didn't even ask me. Had my guitar completely painted flat black, not even like a logo or anything on it. It was flat black, and I'm like, how am I going to get mad at him?
Mm-hmm.
And because I said, why'd you do that? And he goes, look, you're not Eddie Van Halen, you're Steve Blaze. You have your own name and your own signature sound. That's what you're going to do from now on. You're concentrating on who you are. So you don't need anybody else's signature model. You're going to have your own one day. You're Steve Blaze. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Robin. So
what a great story. I would have been a little shocked myself.
I know. It's like you can't get mad at him because his intentions were so good, and it was a compliment. So I was like, okay, man, that's cool. I'm like, black it is. Let's do it.
You still have that guitar?
No, I don't even remember what happened to it. I can't believe it. I have so many guitars that I wish I still had. I think my collection right now I have about 45 guitars or so.
That's a lot.
I started to learn, to not back then, if I wanted something and I might have 4 or 5 guitars or whatever, and you're not like rolling in bucks, right? So you sell one to get another one, and you're trying to, only want the ones that you're gonna play. Now I have 45 of them and play 8 or 10 of them at the most. The rest of them are just like, just have them just to have them, So.
Yeah, I talk to people with that guitar deal a lot, and then sometimes I talk to people and they get to the age where they go, you know what, I'm going to sell off some of these guitars. They've been nice, but I can only look at them for so long, and one day I'll leave my kids a little bit of money instead of these guitars that they won't know what to do with. Was there ever any? Did Robin play on the record at all?
No, he didn't. Now I do remember one time. After he was out of Rat, and I guess he was going through rough times or something, I saw him out in Los Angeles. We were doing the that Concrete Foundations Forum, which I don't know if you remember that or not. Yeah, it was amazing. That was like the biggest thing in the world. Everybody was there. It was 92. I remember the big talk was Nirvana's album had just come out, and everybody's over there going, "Oh, it's the end of us," And we played, Soundgarden played, Ozzy played, a ton of bands. I was on a panel sitting between Nico McBrain and Michael McKean from Spinal Tap, and they were the two nicest guys in the world. And it was like every metal dude in the world that you could imagine was at this thing. And so we were out there in Los Angeles, and on the way, I had a driver pick me up at the hotel. On the way there, I look over and I see this big guy with kind of looked like me. He had the scruffy beard and standing on the side of the corner, big guy. And I'm like, holy cow, that's Robin Crosby. I made the guy turn around and went back. And I was like, Robin, man, what are you doing? He just really looked down, right? Like he's like, hey, man, what's going on? I go, do you need a ride? He goes, no, I'm waiting for somebody right now, whatever. And so I said, we're in town for a few days. We call me later on. And he did. He called me later. And that was pretty much the end of it. He was supposed to come to a show and I didn't see him. And he actually asked me, he said, look, if John doesn't work out, with the band and stuff, I'd love to play guitar in Lillian. And I was like, Robin, that's humbling and it's quite an honor, but he's our guitar player now. If anything happens, I'd be the first guy to call. And that was probably the last time I talked to him until he was in the hospital one time and we spoke. And he seemed like yeah, he said, I know you heard about my health problems. And I'm like, yeah, man, but you're going to get through this. You're going to be fine. Just, do what they tell you to do. Take your medicine, get over it. And this, and I didn't realize how serious it was at the time.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't long after that I heard he had passed away. And
Yeah.
it's a shame. It's a shame because he was such a nice guy. I mean, honestly, every night at dinner, he would not, we go out and eat or we'd order in. He would not let you pay for any food, you know, drop me off at the bank here. Take $500 cash out, put in his pocket. Let's go eat. And I'm like, can we pay for something once in a while? Nope. Nope. You're not paying for it. So, I mean, that's just the kind of soul he was, and it's
Yeah.
a shame.
Says
You
great.
never thought he would be the one that would have those kind of demons win, it's a shame though.
Well, sadly, addiction becomes a big part of your life with your bandmates and things, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about it a little bit more. I mean, John passes away years later from heart
Yep.
failure, but
Yep.
his years of hard living probably didn't help with that. But we'll get into that in a second, because I want to, before we move forward, I forgot that we got to take one step back. I had another question which comes from Sean Nickel, and he wants to know, and I've heard this question a lot: is it true that Jani Lane auditioned or was considered for that first record?
Well, what happened is when we were first starting with Marshall, and MCA had come down and they had seen us play and they said, we like the band, we like you, but we really, if we're going to move forward with MCA, we've got to make a change in the lead singer department. That was the ultimatum. And so it was a hard road. At the time, we had a lot of turmoil within the band, and it was, I guess it had just gotten to the best of us, and it would have been probably where if I hadn't have taken it and moved forward with the deal, we might not have lasted very long. So we wound up, explain and move forward, and everything was copacetic there. But Marshall's like, in the meantime, we've got to find the right vocalist. And I know this guy down here. He's in a band called Warrant, named Jani Lane. They're kind of talking a little bit with Columbia, but I think the two of you guys together would be phenomenal. So he came down. He flew down. I remember picking him up, and he came off the plane with a vest on, no shirt, blue jeans, oh no, sweatpants, and cowboy boots over them. And I was like, okay, where's this guy? Oh, he's from California. That explains. But actually, Jani was from the Midwest, but he was living out in California. So we got along great. We actually had a Lillian show that he came to with the same guys there. He came to the show. He and I hung out for 3 or 4 days. Just great guy. We had a good time together, but he was the captain of his ship, and same here.
Mm-hmm.
We were a little musically different, but it was one of those things. I guess Marshall just wanted to see how we click, and we clicked on a personal level very well. But it was like, I've got my thing here. You can't have two people. You can't have me writing Lillian songs and Jani, writing his thing, and just like, okay, you'll do 5 songs, I do 5 songs, and we'll mix them up. It wouldn't have been fair to either one of us. But obviously, we parted as friends, and he went on to do great things. But that is a true story, and that's how it went down. And it's so funny because recently, somebody sent me a picture of he and I jamming together in like '92 when we were all at a club after a show or something. We just happened to be in the same place, and we got up and played together. And I put a picture on there, and somebody mentioned, "Oh yeah, he was almost Lillian singer." And I said, "Yeah, it was a time where it was a possibility." And some diehard fan, he was never gonna be the lead singer of LILLIAN AXE. I know his friends personally, who knows his mother's janitor's next door neighbor's dog trainer or something like that.
Welcome to the internet.
And, yeah, it was one person. Everybody else was like, "That's great, man. Hey, you guys, we love you both." It was, blah blah blah. And this one girl, and I was like, "All right, ma'am, let me explain this. That you are incorrect." I was very polite, and I said, "No, that isn't true. This is what happened." Next thing you know, she must have gotten, and fans must have started giving her grief for being ugly, And next thing you know, the post was pulled off. So I was like, man, lady, just enjoy the picture. And it was a great story. He's great. I was great. Everybody's happy. You know,
You were
move
there.
on.
You were
I was
there.
there. I
You know.
didn't make the story up. That's exactly how it happened.
Yeah, you
But that
know.
is the story. That's the Jani Lane story.
Yeah, and sadly, as you know, we're talking about addiction. Jani Lane, also,
Yeah.
incredible songwriter, had a great career with Warrant, but also ultimately he had a lot of demons, and that is again something that plagues the life of you, but also a lot of musicians. Not you personally, but the people around you. So here's my thing with Lillian Axe, and I bet a lot of people feel this way. It feels like you're the right band at the right time at the right place, with the wrong people helping with the decisions, and you're not the only ones who have that. The song goes, "Working for MCA." You guys are doing those.
We are.
You're working.
I think
for
we're the
MCA.
poster children for that song.
And there's other bands. Go ahead.
There were, like you were saying, though, there were other bands that got the same thing. And the funny part about it is when Love and War came out, which if you listen to critics around the world, they think Love and War it's been in different polls. The album that should have, right? Everywhere, from the UK to the States to Japan. The top 10 list albums that should have broken or whatever. So it's an honor to hear that, but it's also frustrating as hell. Because I remember sitting in the head of A&R for MCA Records in his office, giving me the lip service about Show a Little Love. That's the greatest song. We just got it picked up here and there and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, it's going to be really good. And then it was like, that was it. You know, they rushed us on everything. You know, they want to jump from single to single instead of nurturing the single. They just jumped from thing to thing. And we were lucky to get a second record because there were a lot of bands that didn't. You know, we had bands like Sweet FA and Cold Sweat. You know who was on the label at that time too? I'm almost positive it was Elton John. And Alice Cooper was on MCA. And years later, when we toured with Alice Cooper, he told me personally what a miserable time and how badly they treated him at MCA. I was like, well, if they treated Alice Cooper badly, I don't feel
you understand a chance. Yeah. You know, you talk about those bands, and we all hear the stories of the labels signing up everything that's rock and roll. You know, these other bands are coming out and they're getting big. Holy shit, we got to sign up. We got to compete. And so the difference, though, is you guys were, like I said, your history goes back to 1983. You're not the new thing, but you're getting signed with bands like Cold Sweat, which is a band that had more Ferrari, Sweet FA. These are bands that really never broke through. And sometimes I get the feeling MCA was one of those labels that was signing up. We got to just stock up on artists and then, unfortunately, not have the direction or the push. And like you said, you're fortunate to have that second record, 1988, followed by 1989, Love and War. You know, you're taking those shots, but I know they're not getting you on the big tours. And that was crucial back then. The bands that had to go out and headline, while it's nice to headline, you need to get under the eyes of a Motley Crue or a Poison.
Well, let me tell you another story. We got signed MCA by Irving Azoff, who everyone knows who Irving Azoff is.
Legend.
One of the greatest, record label legends. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's managed if he still does, I don't have any idea. I haven't followed him, but managed the Eagles and Guns N' Roses and just a huge name. He signs us to MCA and leaves before we even start doing the record. They bring in a new president, can't remember his name, and we actually crashed an MCA party. Al Teller, that was his name, crashed an MCA party just to meet him. We thought, hey, and he's like, oh, who are you guys? Oh, you're on our label? We're like, we're screwed. So, it is what it is, man.
That is another story that you hear a lot.
Yeah.
Guy signed us, and then the guy left. And then somebody else had other ideas.
It's usually an A&R guy,
Usually the
A&R guy gets fired. But you know what? MCA Records is no longer, and I'm still out here.
Yeah, you're still performing. So you guys, but you guys do continue. And now you're continuing into those tougher years for bands of your genre. 1992, you put out your third album, and people like it though. This is now you're on IRS Records, and people dig it. And so tell me a little bit about what's going on at that time.
So we got signed to we did a showcase, and we had a couple of other labels were there too. A label that no longer around called Relativity. There was a guy named Hans Heidel, really nice A&R guy. He really wanted to sign the band too. They signed Shotgun Messiah at the same time, and he was out, but they didn't want to come up with cash. And after what happened at MC, I'm like, look, we need X amount of dollars for this. We're not going to spend 200 grand plus on each record, and who God knows where that money really went. Sure. But we can do the record, good budget. Let's get this thing promoted. We already have, put our names out there right now. Let's move on. So I wrote Poetic Justice and Psycho Schizophrenia, and Poetic Justice was our biggest selling record, and it came out right when Nirvana's album came out. So it's kind of ironic. We were on the cover of remember the Columbia House, the monthly magazine. You got the featured artist of the month, and and Poetic Justice was the featured album. We were on the cover of that thing, that everybody got in the mail all the time. So
how many people probably paid a penny and owe a
penny. Yeah. And guess how much of that penny I got?
Probably not even a fraction. Yeah. But on the back end of that, there's still people who go, I bought that damn penny thing and I owe $100,000 to
right, exactly, right. But that album did well for us, and it's kind of weird because that album is the albums that I hear that fans around the world, the ones that they like the best are Poetic Justice, Psycho Schizophrenia, Love and War. And then a lot of people starting to really like our last album, Days Before Tomorrow. But, people like to stick with the early stuff because that's an emotional attachment to their life and a prior time where things were better for most people. People were happier, less responsibility. So they cling on to that. I understand that. But Poetic was a big record. And there were several ballady type songs on that record too, big epic ballads, but coming out right at a time where a lot of bands were just like wearing flannel and shorts and didn't even tune the guitars, So it was kind of ironic, but it was we got out there, we put those two records out, and the next thing like everything else, the label's falling apart. So and we did the Out of the Darkness into Light. So we have 5 albums under our belt, and then just the whole label thing. I've had 9 record deals in my career, and I don't think any of the labels are even functioning anymore,
Yeah,
except for the most recent one.
Right, of course. And the days of the label have kind of disappeared. So I'll want to talk about some of the other things that you did as well. But so talking about the classic lineup, everyone loves to have a reunion. You guys are out there, you're playing, you're keeping your brand together, you do the Monsters of Rock cruises, you play shows. What I enjoy is I watched a video of you guys playing in your hometown, your home state, and people are out and passionate. You got a good stage show, you got a good sound. Music has a little heavier edge, but I think that's a natural progression. So it's not that you need this reunion, but I know that there's fans of those old records who wouldn't mind hearing it. Now, we already said that John, the rhythm guitar player, has passed away. I think people would like to know what Ron Taylor, your singer, the original singer on the albums, is up to. Because before we get into that, I got to mention Johnny Vines was the singer before you got signed. Right. And he also has passed away recently, right?
Yes, recently. And a story on that real quick is, that was a major label decision. As I mentioned earlier, the band at the time, as we were getting this interest from MCA, was kind of crumbling. So I had a lot of heartfelt moments where I had to do some deep soul searching. And, the label pretty much, that's what they were. It's like, this is what it is, or there's no deal at all. So at that point, I made the decision that I thought was best. And, I'm not going to lie to you. I know that if I hadn't have done that, the band probably wouldn't have lasted very much longer. But it did. And Johnny and I became very good friends several years later. And we got the original lineup, me, Michael, Danny King, and Johnny. I was at his house. That's how close we'd become. And I said, we started listening to old demos and stuff. And I said, Johnny, I got an idea. Let's get the original four. We had a song called Circle of Light that never made any of the Lillian records. But we had about 15 old demoed songs that were still great songs, but they never moved on to any of the subsequent albums. So let's put a record out, dude. I can get us a deal for this, which I did. And we'll call it Circle of Light's the name of the band, and we'll call the album Rebirth. And we did it. And we put out this record,
Yeah, this
and
is
it
like
sounded great.
2011, 2012, maybe?
Yeah, up in that area. Yeah, And you can still get that album and stuff, and it sounds great. And it was just kind of my way of just rekindling, reconnecting, and letting all the difficulties that we had amongst each other emotionally heal. And we did it. And I've had so many people, including Johnny and people that work with the band, where thank you so much for doing that, and how much it meant to him. And I was like, how much it meant to him and how much it meant to me to be able to reconnect with him, not only on a friendship level, which was the most important thing, but on a musical level, for us to be able to do something together that we had spent a lot of time in. So that's what we did. And it wound up, it still sounds great. I listened to it the other day. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I'm so glad we did this.
Yeah, and I hate to be a downer, but was Johnny's situation, is this an addiction thing?
No, not at all. Johnny was one of the most, besides myself, one of the most straight edge
Oh,
people in music. No, he got a brain tumor,
mm.
it was cancerous. So um, just I couldn't even imagine. It was like one day everything's good, then next thing he's going to get tested. He's having some issues, and then it's like, oh my god, you never know, man. It can happen to anybody quickly. It's why you have to value every moment that you have alive.
100%. Life is, it's not a cliche when they say life is short. You never know what's going to
That is
change.
true.
So, yeah, but it's great that you guys made that album, and I'm sure for him it was great to have that moment, after missing out on those other years to do that. So let's talk, well, we started talking about Ron, the singer on the records. So what is he up to, and how come he's not in the band?
Well, he and Darren, our bass player at the time, Darren is a bass player from like 90 through 2003, 2004, when Ron, they both basically left together at the same time. They have a band called Low Side. They've been playing around the Dallas area for years. I think they put one record out, and they're still out there playing. But I don't, really honestly, and it's no hard feelings. But I'm not in touch with them. Once in a while, I'll hear from Darren or whatnot. I think it's just like in anything in life. People change. And it's not that it doesn't always have to be because one guy just doesn't like the other one, and one guy does this and does that or whatever. And it's like that's how I feel about it. I'm sure there are things that they might not have agreed with me, and there were things that I didn't agree with them. But that's in life. That's anywhere. Name a band out there. I mean, I'm proud to say that I've never had any like fighting amongst band members or anything. When anybody ever moved on, including myself, to do something else, it was because life took us to that point. It was because, hey, look, at the time, Ron and Darren wanted to go do their own musical thing. They wanted to write songs. They wanted to go out and do their thing. Darren wanted to play guitar instead of bass. So that's what they wanted to do. And I gave them my full blessing. Was I disappointed? Absolutely, of course. But why would I want anybody in a band not fulfilling what they want to do with their musical career?
Yeah,
It's not going to stop me. There's a part of me that, like with everything, I'm like, would that have been cool to just keep the same original guys throughout for 40 years? Yeah. And it'd be nice if money grew on trees too, but it doesn't. So if that had happened, I wouldn't have had the blessings of being able to perform with such other talented musicians that I've had the opportunity to. Um, you know, the gentleman that took his place, Derek Lefebvre, and then Brian Jones, and now with Brent Graham. I mean, these guys are all amazing talents, and they're all my friends. And God puts things in our life that we might not understand at the time, but most of the time, you look back on it and you go, yeah, I see that was a good move. That was the best thing to happen to me right at that time. But just don't
Yes.
see it at that moment,
I laugh sometimes. Like some of the bands, they really only knew each other for 3 or 4 years. That maybe not in your
Right.
case, but you guys did fight through it. But a lot of bands, 88, 89, it came out, 91, they were gone. And
Sure.
then you try to reunite where people have gotten married and have new lives, and you get back out, and some people aren't ready for it. A lot of guys, from what I've heard, Ron might not want to tour. Maybe that's not what he was.
That's true. That was one of the reasons he didn't. As a matter of fact, he told me about leaving when we were playing the Bang Your Head Festival in Germany.
Mhm.
And I think what was happening is he was just, when you're overseas and you're on tour or whatever, a lot of times those are the moments where you start going, you know what? I like doing this, but I just really miss being home with my family. And I don't know if it's kind of worth it. And they know that I am full on 100% now. That doesn't mean, to me, family and God are most important. So that's why you don't see us right now on a bus traveling 50 states, just banging it out. Because you know what? If you're not grounded and you're not with your family and you don't have that part of your life together, then the rest of it isn't going to be together.
Mhm.
So there's no sense in us doing that. The way that we're handling things right now is what's sensible. But people change the priorities, the prerogatives, that what they want to perceive. Like I remember. It's kind of funny because Darren was our bass player, and he did an interview recently with somebody in Dallas, and he said, "Well, yeah, we started this new band because Steve wouldn't let us write." And I'm like, "Wouldn't let you write? You never gave me a song. So what are you talking about?" But instead of being like, "Hey, we just wanted to go do this," some bands and some individuals have to have a blame game. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's just like, if you want to do something on your own and this isn't fitting what's right for you in your life, you got my blessing. Now, I'm not going to end the band. I'm going to go find the next person to be a part of what we're doing here. And there's plenty and plenty of people out there. I mean, I never wanted to have to do that. But when you think about it, when Ron left the band, he'd been in the band for 16 years. How many people can even say they were married that long?
Sure.
So that's just, it's life, man.
Sometimes
And
what's best for the fan, at least what the fan thinks, is not
yeah,
always best for the band. You To coexist is not the easiest thing. To go on a cruise and play these shows, it's a different story. If you're Motley Crue, yeah, well, there's a lot of money. Sure,
yeah,
we'll all deal with each other.
yeah. We'll be best friends as long as they're making a few $1,000,000 at the end of this tour.
But
But
when you're making stuff in
it's not
flight,
just us though, because Jason Beeler from Saigon Kick,
Mhm.
similar situation. He's my buddy, and we talk every now and then. We hung out on the Monster Rock cruise for a while, and I'm like being the typical fan that aggravates me. Like, come on, put the band back together,
Mhm.
man. Like that. I'm like, come on, go out on tour. We'll do Lillian Axe and Saigon Kick, and we'll call it Kick Axe or whatever.
That's
Let's
good.
just go. Let's go out and tour together. And he's like, man, and I'm like, I don't care if his albums were great. He's such a talented dude. And let's just go do it, And people, I was being that fan guy. It's like, it's more important to me
Mhm.
so I can hear your music and you play than what's going on inside of your head, right? So I get that, and I understand that, and occasionally, you get the knucklehead that's like, living in the past and doesn't understand. But a lot of them, the majority of our fans, like, hey, look, I'm in it for the music and
Right.
the essence of what the band is about. So,
And
and
if you
that's a
want
beautiful
that,
thing.
and if you want that music, this is the way to still see it. You're keeping it alive, you're bringing it
Right.
out and making new music, but you're giving people what they want also. And this new deal you made to have the back catalog available digitally is a great thing. Fans are younger. I have a friend, she's in her early 20s, and she's telling me about LILLIAN AXE. I'm saying I
Right.
was there, and I don't remember LILLIAN AXE as well as you do, because
That's great.
cover music unbiased now. They find it and they hear it and they want to relive a time that was a fun time. Grunge, maybe it was the right time for things to change, but it didn't last. People went back to wanting to have fun.
That's true. And I'm good with that. I'm like, hey, those albums from back then are always going to be there for you to go listen to.
Yes.
But I'm making new records, and it's still me writing, and it's, I'm not going to put anything out there that it is less than what I can fully give. And that's the thing. So with this new deal with Global Rock, which is a new label, it's there's a label called Store for Music in the UK, and it's one of the largest reseller reissue labels. They formed a new label called Global Rock out of the UK, and with the first signing, they reissued the catalog digitally. It will be coming out at the beginning of the year in physical format.
That's great.
With bonus tracks, and we're releasing an anthology, a 3 CD anthology that is called Psalms for Eternity. And the first disc is all of the the True Believer, Misery Loves Company, the signature song, so to speak, if there was one, for each record, with a bonus track. The second one is like a deep cut, and then the third is one of the popular ballads from that record. So, I had toyed around a few years ago about wanting to put a record out with those all Lillian ballads, and so I'm able to do that with this anthology. That's going to be coming out at the beginning of the year. All of it's going to be coming out on vinyl too. So we're excited about that. And then the new record will be coming out, slated tentatively for June, and that's From Womb to Tomb. We're about little over halfway done with it.
Yeah, how great! To make these things accessible and to really be behind it. I think fans see it too. When they see the product, they say, "Okay, they're serious about this." And I think people are really loving discovering things and discovering vinyl. I never thought that would ever happen again.
Oh, I know. Same here, because I look at right now, like Brent, our singer, just went and bought a couple of, I think he bought like Love and War and Psycho and vinyl. He paid like $380 each. And I saw Fields of Yesterday for $1,000 in Japan on vinyl. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, nothing, I don't think I'd pay $1,000 for any record.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just strange. So now with this new situation, it's going to be re-released on vinyl, and now everything's out on. I think it's over 250 different digital formats. The albums are all out on. So I'm really pleased. The people at the label have been great.
Yeah, well, that's good news. We'll have links in the description so that people can find some of these things. LillianAxe.com, really easy also, but we'll have links to all those things so people can check it out. Before I let you go, I got to mention Angel. Angel is one of my favorite mystery bands, and I'm good friends with Frank Domino, who lives here in Las Vegas as well. Great guy. And I've asked people to describe to me what it's like to see an Angel concert in the original form.
Right.
They had the guys who made the Sid and Marty Krofft costumes, and they had puppets, and they had boxes, and people would disappear, and they had to be sworn into the Magicians Union. But yet, there's almost no video at all.
Yeah, I know, that's true. You're right about that. It's weird.
It's crazy. And so in 2000, for about 7 or 8 years, you and Frank Domino and the drummer as well went
Harry
out.
Brandt.
Harry Brandt, yeah. His name escaped me. And you guys donned the white and you played some Angel. And so
it was cool because I was always a big fan. When I was a teenager, I had the poster on the wall. I got On Earth as It Is in Heaven was the first record I got. I had it on vinyl. I had all of them on vinyl. And I was like the only person that knew who Angel was. And I'm like, this is great. I love this stuff. And so years later, I got asked to audition because the guy that was playing keyboards at the time was writing a book, Rock and Roll War Stories, and he wanted me to put something in his book. So then, he starts saying, "Yeah, I'm playing keyboards in Angel." I go, "What? Angel's been broken?" He goes, "Nope, I'm playing it." You know what? We got this guitar player. He's not working out too well right now. He goes, "You want to audition?" I said, does a one-legged duck swim in a circle? Of course. All you got to do is call me. So I go up there, and I knew every song. I knew it better than the guys did. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do the Fortune. Let's do Mirrors. All right, come on. And like, I knew 2 songs into it. They had auditioned several guys already, and there was several more coming in after me, which they went through the motions of to be polite.
Right.
But 2 songs into it, I could just see that smile and Frank and Barry looking at each other. And then right after the audition, the guy that was managing, Danny Stanton's like, Blaze, I think you got the gig. So I was like, at that point, I was like, great. So we started talking. In the first few Angel gigs, we were all black, man. We didn't even do the white. We were wearing all black. We went to Sweden. We did some festivals. We did like several months throughout the U.S. and it was crazy because I was such a fan, and this was fun because it was like no pressure, not like within Lillian where I'm handling the business and all that.
Yeah.
It was just like
You
being
just
in an
want to
Angel
play.
cover band with the original guys. And Frank and I actually wrote like 6 songs that I have the demos of, and I kept telling him, Frank, man, let's re-release, take the top 12 big time Angel songs, right? The Tower, Don't Leave Me Lonely, Mirrors, all the, stuff like that, Telephone Exchange or whatever. And let's go ahead and re-record them with the new band and reintroduce the world to Angel with a modern sound. All due respect to the old recordings, but this will give the fans something new to listen to while we're creating a new record. And one day he'd be like, yeah, that's a great idea. The next day, I don't know. There's like, I wish we would have done that. I think that would have been great. Because when we were out playing together, it was a lot of fun. And, you had some diehard fans, I mean, some of those people, I remember one of the first shows was St. Louis Pops, sold out by 1,400 people or whatever. It's insane. We come out, and with the keyboard intro to the Tower, and the place was deafening, And I had just started with them, so I was like a little kid in a candy store, And it was so much fun. And but I hadn't talked to Frank in a while, but he and I used to room together on the road, and I used to make Frank laugh so hard he, wet himself sometimes. So, I mean, he's such a nice guy, and Barry is too. We had so much fun, but I would crack that dude up so much that a lot of good years, man.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Yeah, and he is a great guy. He's been on the show, and here in Vegas, they did an awards show that I directed, and they reunited the surviving
Yeah,
guys.
I know. Punky's back playing with him, and they got a
Yeah.
new record out. Sounds really good. So,
It's really
of course,
cool.
I got it.
They can do that. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a fun thing. But so anyway, I couldn't let I wanted to talk about something a little besides Lillian Axe for a second. But so we're reminding people, check out the music. You can watch the music videos too if you feel like going down the rabbit hole of the good old days. It's all out there.
And we got a new video we're going to be shooting in January for a song called "I Am Beyond," which is the first song, well, actually second song, but the first one's kind of an intro piece. Second song on the new album called "I Am Beyond," and no, man, just you can find me on Facebook. I'm always going on there live. Lillian Axe Facebook page, my Facebook page, LillianAxe.com. I have a podcast called The Love and War Show that I have 40 episodes that you can see on Facebook as well. I ghost hunt, so I have a documentary coming out in the new year, and it's called Through the Veil. And it's about one of our big investigations. I've been ghost hunting for about 7-8 years now, and that'll be coming out too. But everything, Lillian and Steve Blaze involved. If you're interested, find me on Facebook and on YouTube. And gosh, what else? I do Cameo. I do bar mitzvahs. No, I don't do bar mitzvahs.
Well, listen, the day is young. I'm thinking about how good the ghost hunting must be in Louisiana. There's got to be some.
It's amazing, man. That's a whole nother show for an hour. We can talk about ghost hunting. But
we'll have to have you come back. You'll have to come back, and you'll talk about the re-releases, and you'll talk about the new music, because that's the main thing. Obviously, we're trying to turn people on to new Lillian Axe music, but we'll get into some ghost hunting. That's a tease,
oh yeah. Hey, I'd like to pay you a compliment, man. First of all, your show is great. The way that you handle your guests and your knowledge, and just you're a great guy to talk to. And man, I really appreciate you having me on. And anything I can do for you in the future, don't hesitate to call. And just keep doing what you're doing, brother, because it means a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate that. One of the things that I've enjoyed so much about doing this is I always knew I wanted to do these interviews. I went to school for journalism a million years ago. Other things
Right.
got in the way. But what I like is turning people on to other people's music. And when I put the Amazon affiliate links, I can see how much product we sell. I had
Right.
Steve Whiteman on from Kicks, and his record sold out while the interview was on. And
wow, that's amazing.
it was great. And so those are the things that make this worthwhile, to have artists like yourself on there. You know, it's not like MTV's interviewing anybody.
Exactly right.
But so it's always nice to turn people on to music. And I find that people enjoy watching the interviews. Sure, they like George Lynch and Stephen Pierce are the big ones. But
Right.
when it's somebody like yourself who has a story and has a long history, I find those do the best. And I'm really happy to help spread the
Thank you.
word.
I appreciate that greatly. And please stay in touch. Anything I can do, and I'll keep you posted on everything that's going on as we move.
Sounds great, Steve. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great night. Good night, everybody.